Hi everyone, I'm at York University Kiel campus today and I'm going to see Drew Green, founder and CEO of INDOCHINO. Let's see what he has to say.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Kobler. I'm a second-year student here at York University, and I'm president of Hustle as well. I'm extremely honored to introduce our guest speaker for today's event, Drew Green. So Drew Green has built one of the world's fastest-growing apparel brands, INDOCHINO. As an award-winning entrepreneur and expert in managing companies, as an award-winning entrepreneur and expert in managing high-growth companies, he has grown the company at a compound annual growth rate of 48% and expanded its retail network across North America. Prior to INDOCHINO, Drew founded and was CEO of SHOP.CA, Canada's first multi-merchant marketplace. Throughout his career, he has played key leadership roles in companies that have created billions in shareholder value. And a sought after technology, e-commerce, and retail expert, he has presented to hundreds of thousands of industry peers, leaders, students, and entrepreneurs through events, conferences, and educational forums. Drew Green has been acknowledged throughout his career as a top 40 under 40 innovation in retail award winner by the University of Alberta and recognized as EY Pacific Entrepreneur of the Year category winner. We are glad to welcome Drew back, we are glad to welcome Drew back as he graduated in 1997 from the health program majoring in kinesiology and health sciences. So please help me in welcoming Drew Green today.
So thank you for having me here. Really appreciate it. I wanted to actually kind of kick it off with a couple things, if that's okay. Number one, I've got both my sons here, so maybe you guys can just quickly stand up. You're not going to say anything, I promise. But maybe if we can just give them we're actually going to kick it off with a free suit opportunity. So Liam, can you just stand up for a minute? So I need two people to guess his age. Okay, here we go. You're first.
I'm going to guess 14.
Close. Okay, we got one in.
12.
Oh, right in between, so you both get suits. So I'm going to make you both suits.
Really?
Let's do one more thing. Yeah. So as I just kind of mentioned in the overview, I've presented to literally hundreds of thousands of people since I left York in 2007, I think 97. And each time, almost each time, not every time, but one thing I like to kind of kick it off with is a high five. So if you could maybe just indulge me with that, let's just stand up and give the person next to you a high five. That's awesome. Thank you so much. So, we're here to talk about, going from digital to physical retail. But when I talk about the company, I don't really talk about it in the context of online or retail or that, words that are used quite often as omni-channel. We are a commerce company, and commerce has changed so much these last 2 decades. Hopefully you get a little bit of perspective of how we view commerce in a really, really unique way, and how we built a really, really unique company. INDOCHINO, just as a company, actually, I think what I'll do is I'll just give you a little bit of my background since I graduated from York. York is a special place. It certainly gave me a lot of opportunity. It's actually where I started my first business. And so I'm going to give you my sort of full background just so you get a context of everything that's sort of come together into INDOCHINO. As was said, I went to York and played basketball opportunity for me to be a first-time entrepreneur. And over the next sort of 3 years, what I was able to do is build actually a fairly big business. I had started hiring people. It was a fitness consulting business. Started hiring people, got a facility, created a facility in downtown Toronto. And I was lucky enough to end up selling that business and traveling the world. And that was really my first experience as an entrepreneur. After coming back from living in Australia and Singapore, I was really, really lucky to be part of a technology company that we built literally from the ground up to about 20 million in revenue. We sold that company to a company by the name of DoubleClick, which is based in New York. From there, I moved to New York and spent 10 years in that city. Both boys were there when they were babies. I was head of retail at DoubleClick for many, many years, and DoubleClick was sold to Google for $3.5 billion. From there, we started a company called SHOP.CA, which was based out of California, just outside of San Francisco, and built that company up into a top 10 multi-category online retailer, which is important to this conversation today. And then we sold that company, and then SHOP.CA here in Canada, which my family and I now still own. All the while, what the experiences that I got in doing that before Indochino really pointed to what we have created here. Online-only businesses, especially as it relates to e-commerce and selling things online. One of the biggest barriers is customer acquisition. It's so expensive to acquire customers, especially at scale. And so you reach a certain point when you're building that type of business where it's very, very hard to continue to attract customers at a reasonable price. And so when we bought Indochino 4.5 years ago, we really took a vision with the company of saying, look, we've got a niche business that we're going to take on, and we're going to create a global brand. And to do that, what we felt was that we could not be online only. We had to basically change the business. And from there, let me tell you a little bit about what we've created. Indochino over the last 4.5 years has gone from it's 6 times the size from a revenue standpoint. It's been even positive these last 3 years. But it all started with really one thing. We wanted to inspire our customers and really inspire a generation. To do that, though, we couldn't just do it online. We knew that, especially given that 85% of all commerce was still in retail, that we needed to invest in retail and we needed to innovate and really redefine. And so when you think about Indochino, here's a few of the things. So it is custom apparel. We are the largest now in the world, privately held, based in Vancouver. We've got just over 2,000 employees. Quite a few of those are in Vancouver, but really all over the world. So we've got 42 showrooms across North America. We've got offices in Dalian, China, and about 1,500 people working in our factories every day creating garments. When we thought about bringing bespoke, custom apparel to the masses, we knew that it's been around for hundreds of years. It's not new. It's not something that kings and CEOs and lawyers couldn't get at any one time. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring it to the masses. We wanted to make it available to everybody. And so to do that, we had to price the product specifically for the market. And so if you kind of going a little bit into the weeds, but from an addressable market standpoint, just on our shooting side, it's about a $7 billion North American market. If we were to price the product at 5 or 6 or 700, that $7 billion becomes about $1 billion to $1.5 billion. And so instead what we did was we re-engineered our entire back end, our entire supply chain, so that we could sell a custom suit for $400 US. It really is a garment that's comparable though at $700. That was really important to us. We wanted to be high quality. And actually through these years have termed the phrase or coined the phrase affordable luxury, because it's a $700 or $800 garment that a customer can buy for $400. Now, how can we differentiate? Here we were selling literally tens of millions of dollars online, but how can we sell hundreds of millions of dollars and really build a global brand? And what we felt how to do that was to differentiate ourselves through showrooms. And I'll talk a little bit about how different our showroom experience is versus traditional retail. Talked a little bit about our supply chain. The thing that I love about our team, and we've got just this amazing team back in Vancouver, is that they take a really, really complex business. Think about it. We'll produce, or we'll sell, produce and ship close to 1 million one-of-a-kind garments this year. And it's extremely complicated. Each garment has its own measurements, has its own customizations, its own personalizations, and choices of hundreds of fabrics. But what we try to do is we take all that complexity on the back end, and we make it easy for the customer to purchase with us. And that's been a really, really big key to our success. I think one of the things that we've seen as we've launched into retail these past 4 years is that it is becoming an iconic brand. So how do we do that? Well, retail obviously is a big part of it, but we're really, really passionate about partnerships. We believe that partnerships are the number one thing that accelerates our business. So whether it's our partners in China that help us produce the garments every day, or the New York Yankees, I don't know if that's some Dave fans here, or the Boston Red Sox, or lots and lots of different organizations, they've all helped us create an iconic brand. So when you think about our showroom experience, it is different. Retail, as we've all seen, really these last 4 or 5 years, has gone through massive change, right? Some of the brands that we've grown up with have either gone away or we really, really had to shrink their footprint. And I remember, 4 years ago when we were in the board meeting and saying, hey, look, you know what? Over the next decade, we're going to launch 150 showrooms. We're going to invest in retail. It was really, really quiet because that just was not happening at the time. Warby Parker had just started going from online to physical, but it really was not happening. But we said we're going to do it differently. So when we launch a showroom, we don't have inventory. Our competitors, when they launch a store, usually spend anywhere between $500,000 and $1 million just to open the door. In some cases, multiple millions. We, on average, spend anywhere between 100 and 250 to make an Apple-like environment for our customers. And I only say Apple just in terms of the design philosophy that we take with each showroom. From there, we also felt that, look, if we're going to invest in retail, we launched on Madison Avenue about 6 months ago, and that was a big commitment, right? It's an 11-year commitment, literally multiple millions that you're taking on contingent liability. And so how can we not be reliant on walking the traffic? How can we not be reliant on people just walking by and coming into the showroom? Well, for us, the answer was really adopting an appointment-based model. So last year, we had over 300,000 appointments driven into our showrooms from our site. And so we're not beholden to walking traffic in any of the locations that we have in Canada or the US. And then the third thing that we were passionate about was really creating a group of people that were passionate about what we provide. And so we've got in and around 400 to 450 what we call style guides. And those style guides will basically create that one-of-a-kind garment for our customers each and every time. So as I talked about our showrooms a little bit, I wanted to share a little bit of the sort of metrics behind it. So when we first started launching our showrooms, one of the things that we noticed was that the customer was spending more. And so, on average, online, we have customers spend between $4 and $425 US. But when we launched the showrooms, the customers were spending, between 20 and 25% more every time they shop with us. That's significant for anyone that does retail because that means a lot more gross margin into the business. The other thing we noticed is the lifetime value of that customer was much higher. Because they've experienced in person, they were more apt to do it again. And the journey for our customers, a lot of them come to the showroom once and then we don't see them again. They go online and they reorder their suit, their khakis, their underwear, their other casual shirts or their shorts online. But because they were introduced to the brand in store, in our showrooms, we have much, much more loyalty. The growth rate of the company was mentioned. And again, if you think about 4-year growth rate of actually now over 50%, what's really, really important as we've grown is that we're not just acquiring customers. So over 52% of our transactions last year were customers repeating into both our showroom and online environments, and that's super, super important. as we scale the business. So, one of the questions I get asked from the investment banking community all the time, we're a company now that's, proudly Canadian, but we ship product to over 110 countries. We're only 20% of our revenue now is in Canada, 5% is international, the rest is in the US. The question I get asked all the time is, how is our online business growing? How's it growing? How's it growing? How's it growing? And the answer is it's growing well, but the full answer is that our online environment makes up 68% of all of our transactions. So if you think about that, that's meaningful, right? Because our Madison showroom this year will do between 6 and 8 million US, but 68% of it or more is driven by the site, and that goes back to really focusing on how do we perfect the appointment-based model for retail. And it's a significant number as we look at the overall business and how we're going to grow it, because we're not just relying again on sort of what's happening in retail at large from a bricks and mortar standpoint. The other thing that's really cool about what we did in retail is that we were able to take all of our online data, all the customers that we have across North America, and really be precise in terms of where we open our showrooms. So when we go into a new market, we launched Boston Seaport. We knew that Boston Seaport could be an exceptional store for us or exceptional showroom because of the customers that we had around that sort of geographic area, and because of the fact that our Newbury Street's location was sold out almost every week. And so we use just a ton of data to decide where we're going to go next. We've got 42 showrooms now. We've got another 10 in production, and we've got another 100 that are in our sort of roadmap for these next, let's call it 3 to 4 years. And so who's our customer? That's the other thing that really attracts a lot of partnerships to the business, the fact that we do serve the millennial customer. Over 60% of our customers are millennials, so between the ages of 20 and 35. That number has creeped up a bit since we launched our showrooms, more towards sort of 39, closer to where I am. And we've seen that because, as we've introduced retail, some of the customers that just weren't, ready to or willing to spend for $450, $500 US online are now going to the showroom and willing to try us out. Millennials are a huge market. It's a $200 billion demographic in terms of spend, and that's predicted, or was predicted for last year, and obviously going to be even bigger this year. So we've got a customer we feel that we can inspire for many years, and if not decades to come. So here's a little bit of a map around our showrooms. Our first showroom was in Vancouver. It's still our biggest showroom, which is pretty phenomenal given where we have locations across North America. It's about a 5,000 square foot showroom, absolutely beautiful. Most of our showrooms are range between 2,200 and 2,500 square feet. Most of them have between 6 and 8 fitting rooms, and all of them are sold out every weekend. So what does that mean? When we go into a Saturday or into a Sunday, there's no more space. We can't take on any more customers because of all the bookings that have happened in the showrooms. I think one of the key things that we were able to do that's really propelled the business that I did want to mention as well is just the back end of the business has dramatically changed where we can get a custom garment to a customer in 2 weeks. We used to be at 5 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks, but getting that delivery down to 2 weeks has been phenomenal for the business. And next year we hope to get it down to 1 week, whether that's a pay option or not, we haven't decided yet. And so where are we going to take this business? We feel like, as I said, we're a proudly Canadian company. We're really proud to employ hundreds of Canadians, and we're going to stay Canadian, but we're going to expand globally. That's one of the key opportunities for the company. In April of this year, we launched in Australia, which is super exciting. It's been in the works now for almost a year, and I used to live in Australia, so I'm more excited about it. But international expansion is going to be a big part of our future. So, as I mentioned, we've got business in Canada. We've got 13 showrooms, a very, very big online business. The majority of our business is in the US. But because we're virtual inventory, because we produce the product on demand, we literally don't have to go into a country with tens of millions of dollars worth of inventory. We can launch into that country much more efficiently. And so international expansion will be a big part of the business. When you think about the business, I think when I think about it, one of the things that amazes me is how big a business it is based on one product. So much like Canada Goose, we're about the size that Canada Goose was 2.5, 3 years ago. Canada Goose was really one product for a long, long time, one really amazing product. And that was the same with us, and that is really the same with us still in terms of the majority. 85% of our product is still suits, but we are transitioning into a full apparel company. So last year, we launched khakis and outerwear, which I saw in the audience, and they sold out in the season, which was phenomenal. We just launched casual shirts, shirts that you don't tuck in, for those of you that don't want to tuck it, and also shorts. And we're really, really excited about getting into other product categories, extending the product we have. And of course, women's custom apparel is something that we also want to get into in the future. Now, for you entrepreneurs out there, I think one of the things that's been consistent with any business that I've built, and certainly consistent with Indochino, is you need to set big goals. It's really, really important you do. We set a goal about 4.5 years ago to deliver 1 million made-to-measure suits. So that became the mission of the company. And frankly, it was a bold mission because anybody that we said it to that was there, it's like, how the heck are we going to do that? That's a big number. We're going to reset this number, and we're probably going to reset it to 10 million by 2029, just because of the opportunity that we have, both in North America and internationally. And so I know that we only have an hour, and so I want to make sure we have a full half hour filled for Q&A and answer any of your questions, both about Indochino or anything else. Like I said, I'm proud you're an alumni and really honored to be here, so thank you very much. Appreciate it. So who has some questions? Yeah, so there's no mystery story behind it. Because the product was produced in China, we wanted something that had a regional relationship to it, but there was no real sort of magic story behind it or even funny story behind it. I think one of the things that we've contemplated through the years is when we do expand in big ways internationally, we're thinking how the name is going to translate into some markets. For example, Japan is a huge opportunity for us. It's about 10 to 12 million suits per year. And it's not a name that necessarily will be perfect for that market. And so, but yeah, there's not even a funny story behind it, but that's a little bit about it. Yes, sir.
I had a question to already answer, but I'm still going to say. Hi. So I would like to, life is a full circle, right? I mean, actually, I don't think so there's anyone in this room who's been following Indochino for the time that I've been following. I can actually go ahead and say that because I come from Mumbai, India.
Yeah.
And I've been following Indochino from the year 2013. Trust me, thanks to you, I gave up my job, went to a business school to study entrepreneurship, kind of worked on an idea which is very similar to Indochino, and it's an idea which I'm watering every day, and I know at some day it's going to kind of take wings and shape. But so thank you, and I had never imagined in my life that I would actually be in Canada and standing in front of you today and actually having this conversation. So that's been my story. So my friend told me that, buddy, you have an idea which is very similar to Indochino, and you was gonna come down and have this event. I said I have to come down and see you. So I'm here today. But as you already answered, for a very long time, I was questioning and was wondering as to why Indochino hasn't kind of got into a space where you were catering to say a women audience, because I see that's like a huge untapped kind of a market, and there are players out there, but it's a space which you can always get into. And again, I personally feel there's a lot of technology integration that can still be added into this, this online offering of yours. Are you still looking at integrating a technology where you stand at about a 5 feet distance from the camera and that captures your body dimensions and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Is that the future that you're looking at, or just gonna be like retail at some point?
Yeah. The thing is, I think the thing about INDOCHINO is we really are a technology. So thank you for that, by the way. We really are a technology company. We're not a pure retailer because we don't have similar attributes such as inventory and some other things. And we do take technology very, very seriously. I think the interesting thing about that, though, is we brought the fit part of our business, which is actually the core of our business, all the way back to what's called trial. And over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been inundated with different types of technology, especially as the iPhone has evolved and developed, where technology could drive the measurement, and we resisted it. Because in this business, if you mess up the fit, everything falls apart. And so, and when I say everything, you start with the consumer, right? The consumer experience isn't good if you get the garment that doesn't fit properly. You're not too happy. But even more so, when you pass the customer, the P&L gets crushed, right? If you have to remake the garment, your gross margin goes away on that per unit basis. If you have to alter it, gross margin goes down on a per unit basis. And so you have to get fit right. And so, I think I'm fairly proud of the fact that we've resisted some of the shiny, new technologies out there that, in theory, could take the measurement, really well. We went all the way back to the try-on. We call it fit method, and our out of the box is over 80% now, which in this business is phenomenal, especially at the volume that we do. And we've got about 120 to 125 tailors in the network, in our showroom network that make it perfect from there. But I think it's not on our roadmap to integrate VR or any other sort of technology that are planning to really help with the measurement process. I think we're going to stay where we are right now and not do that. There's just too much risk to the consumer experience. You mentioned women's, which is usually the number one question. And the big thing about women's made to measure is it's extremely complicated. So first of all, men's made to measure is extremely complicated, but we all men have almost a uniform, right? Our suits are very similar, right? No matter what the brand is, they're very similar. But women's suiting is vast, and the silhouettes for women's suiting are also vast, and so it adds an extra layer of complexity that you have to be perfect at. And until we're perfect at it, we're testing it now. Mom has one, or a couple, my wife. We're testing it, but I don't see it coming to market this year or even next year. I do own a women's apparel brand separately, and they're experimenting with some elements of custom apparel, but not suiting. So, but thanks. Yes, sir.
You said that weekends are jam-packed at the stores.
Yeah.
Is there a danger that you might turn customers away because you can't get bookings?
There really is. So the second thing we are is we're addicted to data. We look at data day in and day out, and it is something that we get concerned by in terms of not wanting to turn away customers. Again, one of the unique things about our showroom model is that we can predict labor, which is, for anybody in retail knows that is another big risk within a P&L. If you don't get labor right, specifically within retail, it can be a problem. We're able to predict labor based on our appointments and based on an assumption of walk-in. But it is a concern. And there's no easy answer, right? I mean, we do have what I'll call almost a template in terms of when we open a showroom, we feel confident and comfortable with that sort of 2,200 to 2,500 square feet. But I don't really want to open 4,000, 5,000 footprints, across North America. I think that, what we probably need to do a better job of is to go deeper into markets more quickly. So, for example, just an example here, but Newbury Street is an amazing location for us. But not only is it sold out on the weekends, it was sold out, through the week. And we were a little bit late getting our second location, but we're not going to make that mistake again. We're going to launch a third location in the Boston area, in the suburbs, this year. But you're right, we have to balance that. We try to be just amazing at greeting customers. That's something that we do a lot of sort of shadow testing on. And you never want to have a customer come in and not be able to at least have a conversation with somebody. But it's happened, and it is something that I worry about for sure. Yes, sir.
It was about the technology issue that the gentleman just raised earlier. I'm just thinking, I agree with you 100% about the personal measurements, because it's the personal part comes right into that.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking of is that if you had a VR sort of representation of the types of suits or clothing for this individual, the measurements wouldn't necessarily be right, but I could model it on, let's say, the age, the general weight, such like, and then apply things like the type of cloth that they choose, which would give them a mind's eye view of what would happen without necessarily creating any risk to either party.
Yeah.
Sorry, just the question, whether you considered that. Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah, we considered it. I mean, I think the visual aspect of shopping is super important. There are companies out there, even SaaS-based companies, that provide some online solutions for online commerce around that. I feel like you can also integrate too much technology into the experience. And I've looked at, we've got a couple partners in New York that own VR companies. We've talked about doing some sort of thing. And I think it'll be part of it at some point. I just want to make sure that the core of the business is strong, right? And we don't get too distracted with almost too much technology. And I've seen that, right? Some of our competitors have not been able to scale the business. This is a nine-figure revenue company. It's a very, very big company, and we can't afford to screw it up, right? So we do have the Vancouver showroom, which actually acts as our lab. So when we do want to test something, we test it through that. That's how we do it. But there's a really cool. I was actually in Seattle on Monday with Nordstrom executives. They launched the Nordstrom men's shop in New York, and it's awesome. It's so great. And they've integrated a lot of technology that is very cool. But I just don't know how it would fit into our business, or if it would really ultimately drive the consumer experience. Yes, sir.
Hey there, how's it going?
Very good. Oh, sorry. I thought I was going to have Dennis. Okay, sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm here too.
Yeah, how much of it?
So I'm a new entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and I'm looking for suppliers for like a online Tupperware, sort of like kitchenware. We review, we have like a brand, we do product reviews. What advice would you give to someone who doesn't have as much resources as maybe someone like you to go and source out suppliers so we can do an e-commerce exchange?
Okay. So you do product reviews.
Yeah, so I'm the Tasty Bachelor, nice to meet you.
Nice.
And what we do is we
The
test
Tasty Bachelor.
the Tasty Bachelor.
Okay.
That's right. Everybody on Instagram now, we have half a video. That's great. So what we do is we test products for 30-something bachelors living on their own, and we kind of make fun of it, like we don't know what we're doing cooking and trying to survive in Toronto on a budget.
Right.
And we're looking for suppliers. Right now we drop ship, but everybody's drop shipping. Margins are small. And we're trying to find and source suppliers so we, are basically selling their products. The only seller of their products online.
Yep.
How would someone like me grab the attention of a manufacturer and be like, choose me, let me sell your brand?
Yeah, so I think the intrinsic skill that an entrepreneur has to have is that sort of sales ability, right? And so it's really important, and it's a great question because I think the big opportunity for you would be to really convince a brand or a retailer, right? It doesn't need to be a brand, it can be a retailer with many brands, and really focus in on them and how you can provide them value, and just almost be maniacal about finding that, right? I agree. There's a lot of dropship out there. It's an inconsistent experience, and it's changed quite a bit actually, but it's still very inconsistent. And that's what I would do, man. I would try to sell a brand or try to sell a retailer on the value you can provide for their customers, it sounds like, and just go all in on that, and then expand from there, right? I think the consistent thing for me in starting businesses or running businesses or growing them is that partnerships. So let me back up actually. I've had 5 P's that have been with me for 15 years. The first is people. So surround yourself with the best people that you can. The second is partnerships. If you can find the right partners in a business, you can take $1 million business to $100 million business in a very short amount of time, or even to $1 billion. The third would be product. I think it's really important as you develop your business that you really get to a product set that adds value in some way, obviously, but not everyone does that. The fourth is price. Some entrepreneurs overprice their product or service, and some underprice it. Getting that right is super, super important. And then the fifth P is profit. I've scaled businesses sometimes too quickly, right? And you've got to be able to get a business to profitability. And so I'm giving you all those P's, but it's the one that relates to you most is partnerships. Find that right one.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Great. Or yeah. No, we'll go forward.
I'm just curious. So I'm a kinesiology student.
So am I.
Okay. So I'm just grasping the business terminology there.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm looking to start a business there that's like yours in a way.
Yeah.
But with the equestrian sport.
Interesting.
So how did you find your manufacturers to start your business there? Did you always stay in China? Or did you change them as your business grew?
Yeah, so we made massive mistakes in this area of the business. So we had, 4 years ago, we had 8 different manufacturing partners, all in China. All good companies, all good people, but our product was inconsistent, quality was inconsistent, the delivery time all the way through, just inconsistent. And I had a sort of a dream and a vision for this company to be a multi-billion-dollar business, but that doesn't happen unless the supply chain is the absolute strength of a business like this, and it sounds like of yours. And so we did something kind of cool. We said, okay, we've got all these suppliers, but there's these 3 we really want. And so what we did was we actually put together financing plan. We said, look, we're going to raise $30 million US. This is what we're going to do with capital, but we're only going to raise that money from a supplier. And so I went to Japan, I went to 2 different places in China, met with all 3 partners, and within 4 months, we closed that round with our now supplier. And not only did we invest the capital in the business, but we have 2 full-time factories in Dalian entirely focused on this business and allowing us to scale as we're scaling. All of my employees that were in Shanghai moved to Dalian, and we built the business out in there. So I'm only giving you all that because it is really important. If you're just starting, I think you can still sort of come at it, in sort of a big way. Like, where do you want to take the business? Who's going to be the right supplier for you to get the business to that level? And perhaps how can you partner with them? just a relationship where, you pay them for the production. How can they actually take some type of interest in your business and you can do it together, right? Because that's how we work with our suppliers now. Like we're on the phone late at night and we're talking about how do we move the business forward together. They're truly a partner. So hopefully that's helpful. I just want to
I had a question about, I'm sure there's lots of, thank you. There's a lot of entrepreneurs in the room, and this wasn't your first venture, but or do you have an example of maybe like a mistake that you made that still, something that you still think about but you learned from it? Because I'm sure like everyone here probably makes a bunch of mistakes, and you have an amazing company now, but early on, was there anything that you remember as being like a key mistake, but that led you to
I've made a lot of mistakes, right? I've probably made more mistakes than I've had success, but I think anybody that does things has that. I don't know, I think the commonality between success and failure is the number one P, is people, right? When I partnered with great people, and found the right group, we have a family office that has ownership in 20 companies now, all first-time CEOs in all those companies. And what I spend most of my time on is making sure that they have the right team around. And I'm part of that team. I'm either chairman or I'm a director or I'm a shareholder. And so we spend a lot of time talking about, thinking about, and working on the team that's involved with each business. And if I think about the mistakes I've made, it's really about perhaps partnering with the wrong people or overworking people. That's one thing I learned as a young CEO that I'll never do again. And I take a lot of care in now is that, when you're building a business and you're the entrepreneur, right, you're running the show, and you can work 100 hours a week. You literally can because it's yours. You love it. You want to see it. You know exactly where you want to take it. But understanding that not everybody needs to go on that journey is something I have to learn, right? It's not for everyone. And so I take a lot of care in making sure that I have the right people and that I take care of people. Hopefully that's helpful. Certainly.
Hi, I'm an entrepreneur and our company is about customer retention and loyalty program. So my question to you is, how do you,
what type of company is
customer retention and loyalty program.
Okay.
So my question to you is, how do you build customer loyalty and retention for your brand? As you know, there's a lot of competition in the market. So how important it is for you to bring loyalty and retention for your brand and customers?
Right. So another great question. Like I think that I've gone through the evolutions of, having businesses, running businesses that had cash back, had points, had very complicated loyalty platforms or programs behind them. The thing that I've learned and what I love about what we've done at INDOCHINO is really the loyalty that we generate is entirely driven from the experience of the product. And so a big shift for us, especially some of the executives, because most retail companies want to be product companies. I wanted to be an experience company. I wanted to have a person come into our showroom or come onto our site and just have an amazing experience that they become a fan of. And I think that's for us what's created the loyalty that we have. The size of the business we are with the customer base that we have, like life to date, it's pretty rare, right? We have so many customers that buy from us once and they'll never go anywhere else. And that's entirely based on the experience that we deliver